Good evening. This is an unscripted video. I'm making this particularly for my brothers and sisters in Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. But this video is of importance to the entire Indian subcontinent and the people within. Especially, this video is important for my Muslim brothers and sisters in South Asia. We are all now facing ocean of hatred from Hindu fanatics. Hindu fanatics are in power in India. Hindu fanatics have waged war against Muslims in South Asia. Hindu fanatics have been sending various kinds of misleading information to mislead our Muslim brothers and sisters out of Islam. To understand where we stand now, we need to go back in history. We need to dig deeper into history. We haven't done that in the last 100 years because, especially in Bangladesh, Hindus have taken into national politics directly and indirectly. Awami League is in power in Bangladesh, and Awami League has always played with our history. Our generations were not taught the right history. Our struggles started after the British came. The British slowly but surely empowered the Hindu elite class. And there was a rise against Muslims in the 19th century. If you read the history, there were free thinkers. There were Bengali free thinkers who were in fact trying to save Hinduism from fanaticism, and along with the British, they enacted laws to give a better value of life to the Hindus. But eventually, the plan was, once the British were out, there would be a rule of Hindu fanatics. There will be a rule of the Hindus. That was the plan all about. We can see the result of it. We can see the implications of such a plan after the partition of Bengal. After the British partitioned the Bengal in the 1905, which survived until 1911, we saw a rise of Hindu fanatics in the name of patriotism, in the name of liberation and freedom. Anushilan Samiti and several similar type of organizations engaged in terrorist activities against, not only against the British, but also against civilians who were running the government. Khudiram and many other so-called patriots carried out terrorist activities, killing many civilians. Eventually, the British gave in, and the Hindu elite class stopped the partition of Bengal. The Muslim League was established in what you know now today, Bangladesh, and in our capital, Dhaka, in 1906. And in response to this, the Hindu Mahasabha was formed by the Hindu fanatics. The Muslim League had to be established because the Congress was dominated by Hindus. And our forefathers could realize that there was no way Muslims would have got their due rights under the Hindu dominance. Because our forefathers knew that Hindu fanaticism was ruling India. Many of the mosques, even then, were being attacked, destroyed. Muslim children were killed. And you can find about all this in British news archives like I did. And since then, there was a plan to dominate India under the Hindu rule and Hindu dominance. Hindu Mahasabha was formed, like I said, and eventually, in the color of Mussolini's black shirt movement, and also in the color of Nazism and Hitler's Mein Kampf. Organizations like the RSS, BJP, is their forefathers formed the RSS and similar organizations throughout India. So obviously, there were reasons for our forefathers to be wary of the future under Hindu dominance. The British had to go, but the British were not helped by the Hindus under Mahatma Gandhi, so-called Mahatma, Mr. Gandhi. And Muslims fought for British because the ultimate deal was Muslims would be given independent lands, because we were struggling for it. We were facing atrocities, discriminations from Hindu fanatics for centuries, and nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody talks about it. They all talk about Muslim invaders invading India, carrying out atrocities, but they don't want to talk about what Islam has done to our forefathers and what Islam has done to us. Islam has wiped out from our souls any kind of racial discrimination, because even today, 170 million Indians, Hindus, are considered untouchables, even today. So, my dear friends, Islam saved us from being untouchables. Islam put us shoulder to shoulder in the mosques, and it freed us from the clutches of Hindu elite class. Even today, 24% of the higher caste Hindus dominate 75% of India's economy. What does it tell you? Even today, as I said, 170 million Hindus remain untouchables. But we're saved. We got out of the grips of the Hindu fanaticism. We got out of the grips of Hindu Brahmin dominance. This angered them. But eventually, as our forefathers sent Muslim army officers, soldiers to help the British eventually helped us. And we had the Pakistan, in East Pakistan and West Pakistan. The birth of Pakistan was on the basis of equal rights, because Muhammad Ali Jinnah, before the partition, addressed the local assembly in Pakistan and said, in the new Pakistan, Hindus and people of all faiths will be free to go to temples and mosques. They will have equal rights, because Jinnah himself was a secular man at heart, and he was a Muslim man. He was a very smart Muslim man, and he was leading a group of great Muslim leaders as well, like Sher-e-Bangla, Fazlul Haq of Bengal, Sohrawardi of Bengal. The purpose of the new Pakistan was not to discriminate anyone on the basis of color, on the basis of language, on the basis of ethnicity. That's why Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who became eventually the father of our nation, went to Bihar after the atrocities against Biharis and Muslims before the partition, and when the riots killed many Muslims, and invited, sheltered, and get refuge to many Biharis into East Pakistan, or the then East Bengal. Many of hundreds and thousands of those Biharis are still in our country. But soon after the partition, there was a plan to instigate Bengali fascism in our part of the world. And who orchestrated that Bengali fascism? That Bengali fascism was orchestrated by Hindu fanatics like Dhirendranath Datta. They didn't leave East Pakistan, although they were vehemently against the partition of India, and they were vehemently against the partition of Bengal. And they, along with other communists, misinterpreted the address of Muhammad Ali Jinnah about Urdu being the state language. For example, the state the national bird of Bangladesh is not crow, but you can see crow everywhere. And Muhammad Ali Jinnah didn't say that the provincial languages wouldn't be able to be used by the people of different provinces. They would require a language to interact amongst various communities. And when our forefathers fought against the British, and when Urdu language was known to the educated mass anyway of entire India, and when Urdu was not the predominant language of West Pakistan anyway, to accept Urdu as the media to communicate amongst all communities, I don't see anything wrong in there. But that was interpreted, misconstrued, and spread in a way so that what we understood that West Pakistan, under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah and other West Pakistani leaders, were trying to ban Bengali as a medium of language. That was spread by communists, Hindu fanatics, and our leaders fell for it. Our leaders fell for it. The Jukta Front, the United Front, went to power using Bengali fascism. Awami Muslim League was created under Bengali fascism. Yes, there were discriminations carried out against Bengalis by various non-Bengalis of Pakistan, but that was in violation of the ethos and principles of Pakistan. And racism was there everywhere in the world at that time. And we were trying to get out of racial sentiment. We have progressed, the world has progressed, but we didn't give time. And that was used by Hindu fanatics to stir up Bengali fascism. So Awami League was established to stir up Bengali fascism in response to certain discriminations carried out by non-Bengalis. Ayub Khan came to power eventually. I'm going fast forward on this. Ayub Khan came to power. Ayub Khan was not loved. He was not loved by East Pakistanis. He was not loved by West Pakistanis. And as Bengali was the predominant ethnicity of the entire East and West Pakistan, so when East Pakistanis were engaged in Bengali fascist political movements, it was obvious that West Pakistanis were afraid that every time an election would take place, Bengalis will win the elections. So they proposed a change in the electoral process, which obviously the Bengali leaders rejected. Soon after the partition, we hardly had any economy. Our education was very low. Our education literacy rate was very low. Our economy almost didn't exist. But 70 plus odd numbers of jute mills were established by West Pakistan government with the government funds. And then gas was extracted. An Eastern refinery was founded in Chittagong. Millions of people were employed in those industries. Nobody wants to talk about it. Obviously, with the establishment of various industries, with the finding of natural resources, our economy was supposed to be boosted. But eventually, that didn't work. Why? Because exports was dominated by jute, and as West Pakistan was already in need of maintenance much more than the East Pakistanis because they were more developed than East Pakistan. 70% of our GDP came from East Pakistani sources, but more money was spent in West Pakistan. This angered our political leaders, and this was swept upon by Indian Secret Service agents. And under the suggestion of a Bengali Hindu Indian army chief, RAW was established after the 1965 war. Our leaders were engaged in Agartala conspiracy. There was no genuine effort to settle the differences. There was no genuine effort because our political leaders and their student wings were all keeping close contact with Indian Secret Service agents. So when the election took place in 1971. Obviously, when Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman won the landslide victory in East Pakistan and almost got no seats in West Pakistan, how could West Pakistanis trust Sheikh Mujibur Rahman? How could they? When Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's student wing were working in close contact with Indian Secret Service agents, when they were planning to divide Pakistan, it was obvious that the elected leader, Bhutto, couldn't trust the Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. People of West Pakistan couldn't trust Sheikh Mujibur Rahman to be the prime minister of both Pakistans when India was trying to get the nuclear weapon. And India was planning to kill Ganges flowing into Bangladesh or East Pakistan then. And India was planning to kill Indus River. So there was a genuine fear, justifiable fear. And that was made worse in March when 300 plus Biharis were killed by Bengali people. Genocide was carried out. And this was used as an excuse by Butcher Tikka Khan under Yahya Khan's orders. So to deny that atrocities were not committed by the military would be wrong, would be an insult to history. But the surprising thing is West Pakistanis were kept totally uninformed about it. West Pakistani ordinary people didn't know anything about it because there was a media blackout. Many high military officials resigned from Pakistani army because they didn't want to kill their Bengali Muslim brothers. But what could have done? We could have brought these army officers into trials later on. Zia Rahman was right in defending the Bangladeshis and taking up arms even against the Punjabi regiment who were deployed in East Pakistan during that time. The army was not only the army of West Pakistan, the army was the army of East Pakistan as well. We could have brought these army officers into trial, but that was not supposed to be. In April, the war was almost over because everything was calm and quiet. Around June, the Mujib Bahini, under the instigation of RAW, started attacking again. And obviously, Al-Badr al-Shams and other civilian groups were employed to thwart their attacks and along with the Rajakars and all. But there were atrocities committed by army. There were atrocities committed by even civilians of Bangladesh who wanted to keep Pakistan intact. And they had to be brought to justice, which until today, we have failed immensely to do, except hanging a few of Jamati leaders. But the real culprits of 1971 remained untouchable. India took the chance, and when everything was quiet again, came into East Pakistan, entered there for 13 days, from 3rd of December to 16th of December, and took the full glory of defeating Pakistan army. When Bangladeshi Mukti Joddhas had already freed most of the Bangladesh anyway during the East Pakistan anyway. India couldn't have done anything without the help of the Mukti Bahini. So, are the Pakistani people responsible for what the Pakistan army did under Yahya Khan's order? No, definitely not. Like the same way, German people are not so responsible for what Hitler did. Italian people are not responsible for what Mussolini did. It's the same way, Pakistani people cannot be held responsible for what Yahya Khan ordered, especially when there was a media blackout. And that army was Pakistani, East and West Pakistan army as well. Soon after, in Bangladesh's independence, Hamudur Rahman Commission report was written. 900 plus army officers were found to have had violated military code. But none of the governments of Bangladesh and Pakistan thus far really took steps to bring them to justice. because of the Tripartite Act, which in fact was supposed to settle all the previous problems that we had. To forgive, forget, and move on. Yes, we should take lesson from history, but we must not be bogged down in history. I don't see why, under any circumstances, Pakistan should be held responsible for 1971. The armies were not voted to power by the Pakistani government, Pakistani common people. Yahya Khan was not the elected representative of Pakistan. Bhutto was against the excessive force used by Yahya Khan. That's why he was put behind bars, along with Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. But we have been denied of justice. But I think Pakistan has a great leader now, like Imran Khan, who repents what happened, who agrees that atrocities were carried out by the army under the orders of some crooked Indian agent, probably, Yahya Khan, and Pakistani atrocious senior army officers. But that doesn't mean the ordinary Pakistani people hate Bangladeshis or Bangladeshis hate Pakistan. There was no referendum even. We didn't have any chance of a referendum whether we wanted to remain together. But I still believe that we could have survived with a confederation, because there's no way two countries could be together. But to have a strategic alliance was the way forward. But look at India today with the CAB, NRC, and all that. Look at how Muslims are being discriminated and how, in the name of secularism, India has become a Hindu fanatic nation. So I believe the way forward should be to form an alliance of brotherhood amongst the common people of Pakistan and Bangladesh, and fend off Indian Hindu fanaticism together. We must not allow rise of Islamist fanaticism to the expense of Hindu fanaticism. We don't want that. But we must do everything necessary as Muslims to defend our right to be Muslims, because plans have been cooked up by Hindu fanatics to destroy Islam from South Asia. We must defend the rights of minorities within our borders. But at the same time, we must always remember what our forefathers sacrificed to have our nations. We must move ahead together. Together, we are stronger. Thank you for listening.